Guys who had now the chance to step it up, well, I would say not every one of them stepped it up.
If you have players in the starting 11 that play a certain manner because of the characteristics of each player, and you ask them these things in a certain setup, don't set the second team in the same setup and ask them to do the same thing if they're not the same players. Don't ask a player like Timothy Weah to play on the left-hand side in that Christian Pulisic role and try to operate like Christian Pulisic.
If you lose a game in a World Cup, then in group stage. So because now you advance, and from now on, it's not allowed anymore.
Now, after that match, after that defeat, the vibe in the press conference was quite negative. Pochettino wasn't happy with that. He said the mood is like we're going home tonight and Turkey's staying. I need to remind you and everyone that we won the group. Sorry, guys, we won. Making history is winning the World Cup. It's not winning 3 matches only within the World Cup. I don't really understand. It's a little bit, if you will, you're thinking a little too small. You're telling me you could make history. What does it mean to win 3 matches if you lose the next one? Pochettino rang in the changes for this final game. A number of players on a yellow card. Pulisic was only introduced in the second half. Balogun didn't feature at all. US lose this game. Is it a big
I didn't even watch this game because it was Turkey were out and the US had qualified.
Yes.
And I flicked on social media briefly.
Don't do that. I told you.
No, but I flicked on briefly and all these people were going, why are the US not doing this? And I'm thinking, who are these people? And our colleagues, some of our colleagues, no, he wasn't the only one, some of our colleagues there talking about the game as if it was the biggest game on the planet. It was meaningless. No wonder Mauricio Pochettino, he probably went back to his hotel room and was headbutting the window thinking, I've got to deal with these people. What if we played his strongest team and Pulisic's got injured and Adams got injured and McKennie got injured or Balogun or any of them, they would have chewed him up and spat him out. It was needless and pointless and senseless to do anything else other than what Mauricio Pochettino did, because the last 32 now is a winnable game. You want your best players. I want Balogun sharp, I want Adams sharp, I want Pulisic fit. And then you move on from there to the 16. It's potentially winnable. You're looking at quarter-finals. And people are getting their knickers in a twist over a game that means nothing. Pochettino must go back and think, this is what I'm dealing with. What was the point staying here? I'm dealing with this. I've given them 2 great performances. I've got this campaign off to an absolute flyer with a brilliant game against Paraguay. Most of the country's up and going, this is great, this is great. And all of a sudden, the Debbie Downers are here because they made a few changes in a game that means nothing. Give your freaking head a wobble, will you? Seriously.
Look, the United States were in a position last night that most teams in this competition would have wanted to have been.
Yeah, it's dreaming.
Yeah, look.
Exactly.
We've played 2 games. We've won 2 games, we've advanced, we've secured first place, and we can actually give a rest. Not like the Norway rest, not like the France rest when it hadn't been decided yet. No. In this case, he had that choice and he had that right. And in fact, I think it was the only choice to make. What, are you going to play players that are on yellow card and potentially they're going to be in jeopardy of missing out games? What are you going to start Christian Pulisic when you don't know really what his status is? Actually, I will turn this around and say it's best case scenario for Mauricio Pochettino, because he's able to go back to his players now and say, listen, we did great in the group stage. Yes, we did. But if we don't pay attention to details, things like this can happen. And I'm glad they happen now, because if they happen next week, we're out. We're gone. And so you can use it as a coaching opportunity for Mauricio Pochettino. And you have a built-in excuse. I'm not even playing my best team.
Yeah.
And so I really do think that people are drowning in a glass of water. And it's unnecessary for whatever criticism, and we've been critical of Mauricio Pochettino, but not in this instance. In this case, he did what I think most of us would have done, and that is rest your players, set up for success long-term in this competition.
These pundits and journalists, they should have been on their hands and knees for days begging Pochettino to make this game meaningless. Yeah. Begging him. Don't play yellow cards, injuries, knockout stages. And yet here we are. Sorry, Don. Here we are going over this game, some people, with a tooth comb and a magnifying glass because he's there and he's there and he's... Oh, my God. Sometimes I sit here and I think, what am I listening to? As Ali said, they've manoeuvred themselves into, and by the way, this because of the stupid head-to-head, because if it was goal difference, the game wouldn't have been meaningless, but it was. They've manoeuvred themselves into this magnificent position. The whole country's looking forward, and all of a sudden, a meaningless game is getting people's backs up. I've never heard so much stupidity in all my life.
That takes us to Don.
I knew you were going there. Nice little segue.
Sorry.
Good segue.
That was him, not me.
No, it was a good segue. I just find it embarrassing how people can be negative towards the job that Pochettino's done. There's many a team on the flight going home now would love to be in their position.
Including Turkey.
Absolutely. And by the way, they've had a shocking tournament, but when you look at their individual players, we were talking about them yesterday, they're not a bad side. Montella's had a mare with them, the players that they've got to choose from. But how can you be negative about a USA team that's won 2 on the spin and earned the right to make as many changes? And also, if you're Pochettino, you use this as an exercise to say, right, these are the players I'm going to pick. Let's see if I can rely on you when we go deeper into the competition. And there would have been 4 or 5 playing last night who we can't rely on.
Yeah.
There, your big players come back in and say, well, I give you a chance to impress. If you had it done and you had it played well, maybe you could have been in the conversation to start the next game. But now they're kind of going to come up against Bosnia or Egypt and South Korea. They've got a great chance.
And they're not going to lose any sharpness having 10 days or the ones that didn't play. In fact, that was a little surprise Pulisic came on. Yeah. But obviously he wanted to give him a little bit of game time for his sharpness because he has missed everything apart from the first half of the Paraguay game. I agree. I think Don's right there. I mean, it was a chance for others to it was a chance in a game that they didn't have to win for others to put their hand up and say, right, you can rely on me if such and such gets injured. And it was a chance to give other people some sharpness. Because if somebody gets injured in the round of 32, a couple of players, then somebody might have to come in, obviously. So that was the opposite. Look, Mauricio Pochettino, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months ago, was rightly getting criticised. Because they were getting some bad results. He was chopping and changing the team. But as Ali said, this platform that we're on at the moment, this World Cup, and the way that the US have dealt with it and the way that Pochettino has dealt with it isn't the time to criticise what this manager is doing. You know, if they're a side that's going home or they're a side that was good, if they were going through as one of the best thirds in the group, then you could say, well, this is just frankly not good enough.
You didn't need to micro-analyse that game last night. You take the game for what it was.
He doesn't need to spend any of his time explaining to people who should know better that he's doing this for the benefit of the knockout stages.
Absolutely.
He shouldn't have to waste a millisecond of his time having to explain his decisions at the moment because it's simplicity at its best.
I will ask a question about the game, though, and it's probably an answer we knew already. There's quite the golf in class when it comes to who's starting for the US and who is in that squad.
And we shouldn't be surprised because that is the level of the United States. They have about 13, 14 players that you can rely upon, and then after that there is a gap. But again, that should not be surprising. We're not talking about France.
Yes.
We're not talking about Spain. And that's why when we have the conversation, if the United States are good enough to win this whole thing, you kind of go...
Who's having that conversation?
Well, there's been conversation. You know, those same people that you're talking about...
The American media, Craig.
Those same people that you're talking about are having that conversation.
Yeah,
and that's when you think about the United States and their ceiling in this competition. Quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Because that's...
Well, if you look at can we show the bracket again?
Yes,
that's a dream. You look at, we were talking about Norway, you were talking about what's going on elsewhere. You look at the US, you've drawn this up beautifully.
Bosnia is essentially a similar setup team as Paraguay or Australia. And then after that, Egypt or South Korea, you think those are manageable for the United States. And then you get into the quarterfinal that could potentially be either Portugal and Spain. And now we're talking. Now we're having a different type of conversation. But yes, everything is set up for the United States. And that first team, that first group of players that will be well rested for Bosnia to now be successful in the knockout stages. And now we're in a point in which you are in the dance. There are a bunch of teams that are no longer in the dance. It's now win or go home. And it's very simple. Nobody needs to explain that to anybody in the media. You just win or go home. And I think Mauricio Pochettino has made the decisions that are necessary to best prepare his team for that very stage and for that very reason.
I think looking at that bracket, it is very feasible if they continue the US, that is, to play in the manner in which they have. It is very feasible they could be in the quarterfinals. That's when you get the eye-opener.
Yes. Yeah.
Portugal.
But to get that far, there's no obviously.
I think
there's no US bias here.
But
Objectively, that's not bad. That's manageable.
The criticism will come if they don't beat Bosnia or Egypt or South Korea, and then rightly so.
Yeah.
But you do look at that bracket and think there's no reason why they can't get to Spain or Portugal.
If they get to the quarter-final and it be Portugal or Spain, barring some anomaly, if they get to the quarter-final, I would say that is a very, very good World Cup. For the United States.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I don't think that's not been.
Because you've got to remember what we were saying before. Yeah. The question marks.
And if they were somehow to beat, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you know, there is a pathway because they won the group. If they were to go head to head with a Portugal or a Spain and get a result there, that's next level.
Yes.
That is next level. My feeling would be though, looking at those two teams with their talent levels, that would be extremely difficult. But you got to buy a ticket to win the lottery.
You've got to try it.
And I could see them being in that quarter-final. There is potential for that to happen, and I think that's why Pochettino is thinking the way he is. And he mentioned it in his quotes after. He said, we're looking a little bit longer term here. We're not looking at Turkey.
Absolutely.
We're looking at the next week, the next 10 days, the next 2 weeks, and how we potentially prepare for these knockout games, which are the way this format is set up with 48, the insanity of 48 teams with. We're waiting on the best of the poorest teams to go through in third place, is that they're going to be in those knockouts. So you've got to think about that. But yeah, the US in a quarter-final against a Portugal or a Spain, that actually would be a real acid test of where they are and how far they need to go. And I think there's nothing wrong with that.
He must have been stunned after the game, Pochettino, when he went into the press conference and he thought, oh, this is good, like we're through. And everything was negative. He must have been stunned.
But he hid it so well, his disappointment.
Well, maybe.
But he must have put him on the back foot. And he must have
maybe he wasn't, Don. He's been here long enough, and I think he's.
Well, he did, because he sort of said, I find it quite sad that you think that way.
But I think he's had a bit of it before, you know. And look, managers get criticism, and everybody gets criticism. But when the criticism is due, you have to accept it. But it's not.
No.
It's not due at the moment. It was a decision on. It was a game time decision. Forget it.
I think you're missing media after this World Cup. I think you stay friends with a lot of them.